Yes, friends, that's Batman Animated Series Reviews. Insightful, informative, and of course, naturally low in cholesterol. When looking back at Batman the Animated Series for standout Joker episodes where he's the sole antagonist, it's difficult not to point to the Laughing Fish, and there are many reasons for that. The Laughing Fish is one of the stories that come closest to giving a concise definition of who the Joker is in the context of this series, which can also be applied to the character as he's presented in most media. You might object to the second half of my statement by saying there have been countless and wildly different versions of the Joker before and since this incarnation, but I argue that the Laughing Fish showcases key facets that each Joker has at least one of, if not a combination of several. He's funny, terrifying, devises intricate master plans, his methods of executing his goals are twisted but undeniably brilliant, is motivated to mess with people purely because it amuses him, has no regard for his own physical safety, often takes innocent or everyday objects and perverts them into nightmarish shapes, lives to battle wits with Batman in scenarios where lives hang in the balance, and always returns to incite more chaos no matter how unlikely he is to survive a particular caper, almost like a slasher movie villain. Even though The Laughing Fish is a relatively straightforward episode in terms of concept and plot, it packs as much characterization and atmosphere as it can in 22 minutes, a quality that all the stellar episodes of Batman the Animated Series share. Before I get into specifics, I should mention that, to my shame, I have not read the comic this episode is based on, especially since I've been hearing for years now that Steve Englehart's work on Batman is quintessential stuff. Regardless, that shouldn't matter too much because this is an adaptation, and all adaptations should be able to stand on their own as competently told stories. Moving on to the episode, Joker's plot is really out there, even for him. He goes to great lengths to create a Joker toxin that only affects the fish of Gotham's waters and gives them his trademark smile in the hopes that he'll be able to copyright them for millions of dollars. When he's told by copyright clerk G. Carl Francis that no one can copyright fish because they're a natural resource, the Joker goes on a deadly spree to get his quote legal cut of the profits. Because this plan is so monumentally ridiculous, I have to wonder if Joker seriously expected this money-making scheme to work. After he's attacked Francis and a lower bureaucrat Thomas Jackson, Joker carries on the whole fish gimmick with his aquarium hideout, but he doesn't seem all that preoccupied with acquiring wealth from his Joker fish. When Batman shows up, he even says, "Yes, well, this is all tremendously boring." It's almost as if fish is the latest thing to grab the Joker's attention, so his new caper may as well be based around that. Joker's true motivation for his crimes is best hinted at when Batman tells Francis that in the Joker's mind, terrorizing an unimportant or innocent figure is precisely the joke. He's really only doing this because he finds it funny to watch Batman and the police scramble to stop him and save his chosen victims, which is wonderfully accentuated as Joker gleefully watches Batman and Bullock trapped in a shark tank. In a similar vein, I love the moment where Joker draws attention to the resemblance between him and his shark, because it's a subtle acknowledgement that underneath all his glee and amusing gimmicks, the Joker is really just a vicious predator that preys on anyone that he has a chance of making even more miserable. Despite not having read Detective Comics 475, I have read Joker's earliest appearance in Batman #1. This episode, and I imagine the Laughing Fish comic, share much in common with how Joker is presented in his debut. In both versions, Joker threatens a particular person and finds a clever loophole through the police's defenses to take out his target using a chemical compound that leaves his victims with a horrifying smile. The Joker toxin has become a staple in Joker's arsenal, but rarely is it used in such an underhanded manner, making the Joker a legitimately threatening figure, even as he spouts comedic dialogue on TV while wearing a fisherman's outfit. Probably the single creepiest scene in the episode is when Joker sends Thomas Jackson's cat infected with the toxin to scratch its master. This scene has an unnerving combination of misdirection and off-kilter imagery as we see the cat go after Batman instead, as he falls into hysterical laughter only to have Jackson inject him with the antivenom. Of course, Batman had disguised himself as Jackson and Jackson as him, but the first time I saw this, I was utterly bewildered by what was unfolding on the screen. Besides, it's all worth it to get the image of Batman succumbing to Joker's trap and grow this hideous grin on his face. Speaking of Batman, I appreciate that while the episode doesn't focus on studying his characterization, he is integral to getting a full grasp on Joker's character because the two contrast so sharply. The fact that Batman is the only one who can adequately keep up with the Joker makes their conflict both a physical confrontation in the climax and a battle of wits throughout that's engaging to watch. There's also a more subtle idea that the reason Batman understands the Joker more than most is because they have more in common than he's willing to admit. But that's a general concept in most Joker stories that isn't of particular thematic significance this time around. Going back to the Battle of Wits, an unlikely character demonstrates his, Bullock. The episode gets points for demonstrating his competence by actually figuring out Joker's hideout before Batman. That's right, before Batman. To be fair, Batman had to go change into his costume, but still. Bullock's interaction with Harley Quinn is fun, especially when she references the cover to Detective 475 by pulling her gun on him and saying, "I got you covered, see?" And when Bullock calls Joker an abusive psychotic maniac at the end and she bursts into tears. I believe this is only the second time we've seen Harley so far in our analyses of Batman the Animated Series, but I won't go in depth about her this time around because she provides a few laughs and that's practically it. Her version of Fish is quite amusing though. However, there's no need to worry because there will be plenty of time to discuss Harley Quinn in future episodes such as Harlequinade and Mad Love. Because I'm in the mood for some irony, I'll end my story analysis of the episode with the very first thing you see in it, a fish. Why is a caper involving fish of all things an appropriate symbol to pair with the Joker? Fish, after all, have countless symbolic meanings in various cultures or religions. Wait a minute. In Greek and Christian symbols, the fish sign Ichthys represents Jesus, the anointed savior. Jesus? Joker? Coincidence? I think not. In all seriousness, the reason why symbolically linking Joker with fish makes so much sense to me is because fish are children of the ocean. The ocean is this vast, deep, dark abyss that may as well be a giant question mark. There's so much about the ocean we don't understand, and a big fear that we all share is of the unknown. The Joker, in a sense, is also a byproduct of that mysterious ocean. No matter how much the police or Batman may try to figure out Joker's mad plots, he will always be a wild card that will prey on you when you least suspect it and in the manner you least expect. As Batman says early on, normal criminals usually have logical motives, but the Joker's insane schemes make sense to him alone. Just like the ocean these fish originate from, the Joker can never be fully understood. Maybe that's reaching, but I thought it was interesting enough to mention. I encourage viewers to think about it for themselves and post their own ideas about the connection between Joker and fish in the comments. To get slightly off topic for a moment, in Eastern Indian mythology, fish often represent transformation, which can also be applied to the Joker, especially in Grant Morrison's interpretation. In Arkham Asylum and Batman R.I.P., Morrison's Joker is characterized as having a super sanity, making all past comic versions of the Joker canon because he reinvents himself constantly, developing a whole new personality that at times manifests as a harmless clown, other times as a demented serial killer, represented in Arkham Asylum by clownfish, which in nature can alternate between sexes. Going back to the laughing fish, audiences get to see Joker at his most dynamic, straddling the fence between hysterical and demented effortlessly. This is due in large part to Mark Hamill's extraordinary range, which I've praised in past episodes. This time he gets ample opportunity to demonstrate a goofy and intimidating presence, often in the same scene. Particularly impressive is when Joker unveils his plot to Francis, threatening he'll be the poorest fish of all if he doesn't cooperate, and when Joker asks Batman what he should do so a shark doesn't go hungry. What's always been most appealing to me about Hamill's portrayal of the Joker is that he always sounds so in the moment, making Joker's shifts in mood incredibly spontaneous, amplifying the character's unpredictable nature, and getting the audience eager to see what he'll do next. The rest of the cast delivers solid performances as usual, but it's Hamill who shines the most, though I love the kookiness of how Arlene Sorkin sings the Jokerfish tune. The animation, while not the strongest the show has delivered, is still quite good. There are plenty of Batman silhouette shots that just look so cool, and showing Batman in silhouette is important in a storytelling sense to misdirect the audience in the scene with the infected cat. Really, my only problems with the animation is that sometimes characters can look bulgy, some shots look off, such as the first-person perspective of the swordfish crashing through Francis's home, and minor inconsistencies such as Joker pushing the reel forward on his fishing line when he's pulling Bullock back up. Going back to positives, Joker's facial expressions also go a long way towards conveying his cartoonish and vibrant personality. The moments where people fall victim to the Joker venom are mortifying in how grotesque the deformation of their faces are. Just look at the way his eyes bulge out. Yikes. I can see kids being terrified by that. The action sequences are dynamically staged, especially when Batman uses his metal shackles to keep Joker's shark under control. Can we all just agree that in a contest between Batman and sharks, Batman always wins? In the 60s, Batman uses bat shark repellent. In Batman Venom, he uses a wooden spear. Here, he uses metal shackles. In Arkham City, he punches it until it has the good sense to leave him the hell alone. Batman's final confrontation with the Joker on the aquarium's rooftop has a dark blue tint that is appropriately stylized and greatly enhances the tone of the climax. This fight also has one of my favorite action beats ever, when Batman just slaps Joker hard enough to send him practically flying back. Joker whacking Batman with a wrench is also reminiscent of his using a crowbar to beat Jason Todd in the comics. Shirley Walker's score also stood out to me this time, with the odd piano theme that effectively captures the perplexing nature of the caper. The music that plays when Bullock enters the aquarium reminded me of the tension-building section of John Williams' Jaws theme, which is very appropriate, even if it was unintentional. I also highly appreciate the moments where the score is omitted, such as the opening scene where the sound design was given the opportunity to shine, with palpable pattering of the rain, the creaking of the fish sign, and the atmospheric thunderclaps. In terms of Joker episodes, The Laughing Fish certainly delivers an engaging tale and is a wonderful adaptation on Paul Dini's part that examines Joker's consistently inconsistent antics, while showcasing how his humor and unpredictability makes him an enduring character, if not the greatest supervillain of all time. It's definitely my favorite Joker episode in Batman the Animated Series, and I rate it a 5 out of 5. I'd like to thank all viewers for sticking around for yet another episode review, and I hope that you found new things to think about, especially with this story. My next Batman Animated Series review will be Night of the Ninja, but I've decided to take a brief break from Batman to review both Amazing Spider-Man movies. I plan on reviewing the movies in two separate videos because there is much to discuss in the context of both movies, and reviewing them as a single unit would get cluttered. But I'll release the reviews back to back when they're both finished so I can lay out my thoughts on this movie series in one go. Don't worry about a prolonged period without Batman Animated Series reviews, because if it's taking me too long to write out the reviews for Spider-Man, I'll put them on hold and just get cracking on Night of the Ninja. Until then, celebrate the Joker's 75th anniversary with plenty of comics, obviously The Killing Joke has to be one of them, and other screen interpretations of the character. There's plenty to choose from, so try not to have that one bad day, and get in touch with our favorite Mr. J.